Project management is all about taking the project lifecycle, breaking it down into separate, sequential groups, and organizing the logical flow of information and work. In this lesson, we'll discuss the groups that make up a project lifecycle, the process groups of project management. A project management process group organizes the individual project management processes into a logical and manageable flow. Starting from left to right, it outlines the things that need to be accomplished by the project manager from the beginning to the end of the project. When these groups are organized into a table or a matrix, each process group gets its own column. Each column provides a high-level view of all the work that project needs to have completed in order to meet its objectives. The work is then further broken down into individual processes of project management. Simply put, the 47 processes of project management are defined, described, and organized from start to finish under the process groups. Even though each of the process groups are organized logically and sequentially, they interact with each other in various ways to guide the project lifecycle to its completion. The lifecycle of a project can be broken down into 5 process groups. The 5 process groups of project management are the initiating group, the planning group, the executing group, the monitoring and controlling group, and the closing group. As you can see from this high-level view, these processes are independent of each other, yet they're still interdependent on each other as they will overlap and loop back in on each other in many ways throughout the project lifecycle. According to the 5th edition of the Project Management Body of Knowledge, there are 47 distinct processes that fall under the 5 process groups. Each process is developed by the inputs needed to create the process. It's then analyzed by the tools and techniques that a project manager can use and apply while carrying out the process. Then it's characterized by the outputs that process will deliver. These inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs are important elements of the project management process and are used in each of the 47 processes. Remember the organizational process assets and the enterprise environmental factors that we discussed in Section 2? Those are 2 of the most often used inputs into the project management process. They should be considered as an input into every process, even though they may not be explicitly listed as an input into the process. As we logically progress through the sequentially organized lessons of this course, we'll talk much more about the inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs of the 47 project management processes. One important thing to note is that the processes of project management will normally fall into 2 categories: the project management processes and the product management processes. The difference between the 2 is that the project management processes guide the project and ensure the effective flow of all the other processes. This includes the planning of the project and the monitoring of the project scope as the project progresses. The product management processes are the processes that will be used to actually produce the project's deliverables. These processes will also interact and affect each other in numerous ways. Even though the industry in which they're being applied may be different, fundamentally, the processes are not. Depending on the complexity of the project, some processes may not be needed, but that's up to the project manager and the project team to discuss and decide. You can rest assured that the larger the project, the more likely a project manager will use most, if not all, of the 47 project management processes. The process groups provide the big picture of the work that needs to be done in order to create the deliverable of the project. They're logical and they flow sequentially from one into the other. They can also interact with each other in numerous ways throughout the project lifecycle. But in order to complete the project, any project, a project manager needs to guide each of the process groups from start to finish. Now, I know you may be thinking, wow, That's a lot of stuff to remember. And you know what? You're right, it is. But as we go through the next several lessons, you'll see how these process groups are interrelated, and it will make more and more sense as we go along. The more sense it makes, the easier it will be for you to understand. The easier it is for you to understand, the more you will learn. The more you learn, the faster you can utilize these processes to get your project management certification or successfully complete the project you may be working on right now. Whatever your objectives may be, completing the processes is the key to success.